It's not retro like a Challenger. It's not forgettably like every other car, It's the uniquely American Dodge Charger. We got it in the RT trim. That means we got a Hemi. Let's take a ride in this 2012 American Beast and check the tech. Doing that next. Now, the first thing you notice about a Chrysler these days is the Gigunda screen here in the middle. This is 8.4 inches, very squarish. It's one of the better interfaces these days, if not the most elegant looking. I mean, the blue and red color scheme I could live without, but it's really responsive. And you've got a persistent ribbon of your functions here at the bottom. Now, let's see what's behind them. Radio is AM, FM, satellite radio, no HD radios available. We also have Sirius-powered travel link for fuel prices and gas station locations and stock tickets, because you're always checking your stocks while you drive. Under player, we have our more interesting media. Under source, you see I've got my optical disc here. SD card here, you're never going to use that. Auxiliary jack and USB are here in the console. I've got my iPod in there now. It does a really good job of putting the information on the screen, uses the real estate very nicely. Bluetooth streaming works pretty well. I didn't get any metadata on my Droid running Android 2.3 something. I also had very intermittent transport controls. That's one of those things where they say check our Bluetooth site, and I don't care. I'm not going to go buy a phone based on my car, and I'm not going to buy a car based on my phone. And of course we have Bluetooth streaming, Bluetooth hands-free calling, phone book transfer. That's all pretty much the price of admission on cars today. And of course these Chrysler products have a pretty good incoming text message display. You can have them read to you if you're driving, read them if you're stopped, and you've got this new message area to send out some canned messages without too much distraction.
Hey dog, looking for half a kilo. Hook me up.
They should rename the controls menu the place where things that should have a physical button go to die. I like my heated seats, my vented seats, all that stuff to have a physical, persistent mechanical switch. Similarly, I think sport mode should be a button by the transmission, not a soft button buried somewhere on a screen where I may have to leave radio to go change to sport mode. That makes no damn sense. Navigation, as you may know by now, is the childish but highly rated Garmin-powered system. I mean, it looks like a cartoon, right? However, this guy scores like a son of a bitch in J.D. Power ratings. It is considered the easiest to use, the highest consumer satisfaction. Look how simple that is. Duh or duh. What I did find, though, is it's great for navigation, very clear, very simple. It's not good for browsing roads. I was out just kind of rambling around the country yesterday, and it does a really crappy job of letting me follow myself on a map with great detail of small roads around me. It didn't even recognize most of them. One choice on the gearbox, kind of antiquated 5-speed automatic. They call it a slapstick because you can slap it right and left to shift, or you can use the paddles, downshift, upshift here on the wheel. And of course, that sport mode I showed you before is going to do a few things. It's going to change your throttle mapping to get a little more easy tip in on the gas. It's going to also hold revs higher, and it's going to seek top gear less. Now, our high trim car has blind spot detection, cross traffic alert when you're backing out to traffic and going to get T-boned. We have forward collision warning at 2 different levels of sensitivity, and adaptive cruise control, so the car will maintain a gap and not just a speed when you're in cruise mode. This car has smart beam headlights. That means they try to always be on high beam. When they detect oncoming lights, it will tailor down the intensity and the beam pattern to pull it down toward a low beam. But it's a very different technology than either a 2-position beam pattern or one that defaults to low. Okay, yeah, it's got a Hemi. That's what this RT is all about. A couple things going on here. This is a car that gets decent MPG. We'll talk about in a minute. They're using fuel saver technology. It's cylinder deactivation. When you don't need the power, this guy turns into a 4-cylinder. They end up activating 1, 4, 6, and 7. And the other 4 pistons, cylinders, will go to sleep through a combination of turning off the ignition, turning off the fuel flow, and turning off the valve train on those guys. Now, those numbers, 370 horsepower out of this 5.7-liter V8, 395 foot-pounds of torque. Moves this 4,500-pound sedan to 60 in a little under 6 seconds while delivering 1625 mpg. Not bad. 1523, though, if you get all-wheel drive. Get the rear-wheel drive. Be an American, not a communist. My main impression I get when I come away from this vehicle is you feel its weight. As I mentioned, it's 4,500 pounds, and it doesn't mystify you thinking it's like 3,000. It feels like 4,500 pounds. That's not a bad thing. It's a big old heavy beast of a car. But that also does tell the story that the engine is somewhat trapped behind software that is not ideal, I don't think. The software is reaching for higher MPG at all times, seeking top gear. The sport mode doesn't really transform the car that much. It's a real honey when you get into the paddles and drop it down a couple gears and lock it there. That's what unlocks the motor. It's that thing I touch on a lot, responsiveness versus power. Big difference. This car has lots of power, trapped behind software, keeping it from becoming as responsive as it could be. I wish it had a better exhaust note. RT to me means it has a little more growl when you get into it. This one doesn't really have much. There's some growl there, but there's also some Dyson in there as well. It doesn't make it feel real athletic. Okay, let's price this Charger and do it CNET style. The RT starts at about $31, but it's missing too many of the tech toys, and most of the good stuff comes in trim level upgrades. So go all the way to the top, to the RT Max. That's going to add some $6,000 to the price. Now we're pushing $38, but you get all the goodies then, and most of them I like. Your a la carte options are all-wheel drive, 2350, pass, sunroof, about $1,000.